once you start seeing numbers coming up. There we go. Just waiting for some people to join. Hello, welcome. Hi. Just give us a few minutes to make sure we've got everyone. Here at Fèis Day, can we all a wee look? There we go. Not overly busy just now. It's only 11 o'clock, so people are just warming up, we'll say. But we've got obviously selling the bottles over behind me here. Walk you down the bar, the most important area where everyone gets to try some whiskies. So we've got a full line up in the bar, and then we've got Ken down here making some lovely cocktails. Ken, say hi.
Hello, hello. How are you guys?
So, so Ken's got, what are you making for us, Ken?
So I have 3 different cocktails today to showcase the Macabé, the Saneg, and the Back Strength, so 1 for each. We have a very light one, sort of highball style, with jasmine tea syrup and green tea syrup. Some Macabé, some soda water, just fresh, and some lemon juice as well.
Lovely.
And then we have a sort of old-fashioned meets espresso martini with some Saneg. We've got some cocoa syrup, some coffee foam, and some Angostura bitters. And the last one is called Rockside's Cup, and it will be the batch strength with some pims and some lemon juice and some ginger beer. So please come and see us.
He's made some for me and James, so I'm going to go and taste test them during the tasting. But yeah, hoping for a good day. The weather's meant to be quite clear for us. It's meant to be quite sunny, which is obviously a rarity on Islay. It's been quite hit and miss through the week. So we're hoping for blue, sunny, lovely skies. Thank you. Here we are. Hello, James.
Hello, hello. I'm not heavy yet.
Ooh, give you one of these.
Thank you. So, hello, everybody. How am I going to do this?
Yeah, have you?
Okay. Should we think this bit through? Alrighty, we start. Hello, everyone. I think there's probably a few people still joining, so come on in. Tell us where you're joining us from. I think Emma's already given you a bit of a quick look around the visitor centre, but we've got nice weather here, so we're looking forward to.
The sun has just came out, so yeah, long may that stay.
And yeah, so I've got a little checklist to make sure. Yeah, tell us where you're coming from. And we seem to be fairly steady now on numbers. That's Catherine joining in the background. And yeah, tell us where you're coming from. Questions, the more the better. If we don't answer it straight away, just kind of repost it. We've got Rachel and Catherine behind the camera feeding me the questions. And yeah, we aim to be about 45 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. We'll see how we get on. And yeah, four to taste, 2 new makes, and then the equivalent sort of spirit matured for 12 years in bourbon barrels. So this should be educational.
Focusing obviously on the impact of the peat on the whiskies. I'd imagine for all those who are taking part, enjoy Kilchoman, enjoy Islay whiskies, peated whiskies, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So 2 new makes and 2 of the whiskies, just so you can see the difference, because I do think you will really be able to tell. One of the whiskies that you'll try in our Fèis bottle this year is actually unpeated, which is quite unusual for us and obviously for Islay as well.
And we have one of the barrels to taste.
We do have one of those casks to try, so you'll get to taste a little sample. Feel like you're with us here today, even if you're not on Islay. Yeah.
So we've just planted the barley here. Well, not just, but it's probably about a month in now. So it's just beginning to shoot out of the ground. So the fields look kind of green. It almost looks like lush, leafy grass. And we are hoping for more sunshine, as it's been good start to the barley growing season, but we need much more sun, and the barley will ripen up, and then we'll be harvesting later in the year. What else has been going on?
Calving, lambing, that's just finished. So all the cows have calved. We've got about 30 calves, and then the lambs, we got absolutely loads of them. Like 300-400 lambs. So yeah, very busy on that. I know. Successful year.
Rory was busy in the spring, so now we've got lots of.
Rory's a happy man.
Yeah, he's gone for a rest. Rory's our bull, we should explain.
Yeah.
So he's the father to the 30 cattle.
Distillery-wise, we've obviously just finished the European tour. So George just drove the pickup back to Islay on Tuesday. So that's just done. It's made it the whole way back to Islay, which didn't happen last year, didn't make it that far.
No, last year we had to, the Land Rover broke down and then we were in a transit van. So
less glamorous.
Yeah, but now it made it back. So maybe we should stick to the Toyota. It's controversial around here, though.
I know.
Good. So yeah, hopefully everyone's kind of settled down, taking a breath. We've taken a breath. We've got a cocktail here to keep us company.
I know. Ken's made me one of these, like, what does he call it? White pearl. So it's made with macrobé. It's very refreshing.
So yeah, the order we're gonna go in is, you might be able to see there is a subtle 1, 2, 3, 4 behind the kind of card here. The first one's going to be Unpeated New Make. Then we're going to try the heavily peated New Make, 12, and then 2 12-year-old bourbons, as I said. So ideally, you'd have 4 glasses. So if you don't have 4 glasses, quickly run and get yourself, I don't know, normally wine glasses, actually. If you don't have Glencairns or something, dedicated to whiskey drinking, then a wine glass is actually really good for kind of focusing the flavor. So ideally 4 glasses. We'll kind of jump around a bit, but the idea is to kind of go 1, 2, and then kind of compare the 2, and then 3, 4, compare the 2, and then probably overall recap.
That's the plan anyway.
So yeah, so the first one we've got to try is the New Make 100% Islay. So we should probably explain, Kilchoman is, we produce 2 different styles of whiskey. One is made from the barley that we grow here. We have about 220 acres of barley growing ground. So, it's about 20% of our total, 25% of our total production that we can grow from barley we can make from barley we grow here. That's also malted and distilled, and matured and bottled. But there's the 2 distinct styles. So when we refer to 100% Islay, that is, the whiskey that we make from the barley here. And as I said, there's about 220 acres. So if we grew barley in all of that ground, we could produce about 1,500 barrels of whiskey from the barley the ground that we have here. But actually, you can't just grow barley year after year after year on the same ground. We have to rotate the crops a bit. And so in any given year, we're probably filling about 600-700 barrels. Yeah. It also depends on whether it's a sherry bud or a bourbon barrel. So.
And that's also kept completely separate. So when we're saying 100% Islay or 50 ppm or whatever it is we're saying, the 100% Islay is entirely barley to bottle on Kilchoman, on Rockside Farm. Yeah. And then the other New Make and the other whiskey that isn't 100% Islay, the only difference is that it's not our own barley that we grow on the farm, and it's not malted here either on our traditional malt floor. So 100% Islay is kind of the whole philosophy of Kilchoman, the whole, our ethos, trying to do that as much as possible. But like James said, we'll just never have the space on the farm to make everything that's needed. So
good.
Yeah.
So we're referencing 100% Islay, but actually the first one is just called New Make Spirit Unpeated. So that is, made from our 100% Islay barley. So the first one we're going to try, New Make Spirit Unpeated. And then, just to confuse you, on the card it says number 1, Unpeated New Make. So, but yeah, this is, people don't taste New Make. It's not something that distilleries typically share, because a lot of the time it's quite rough. It's not very kind of representative of their whiskey, and probably distilleries feel that it gives a bad impression of their whiskey. We take a slightly different approach. We're quite happy to taste and show people our New Make. We always have, ever since My dad was going around with New Make in 2006, 2007, well, all the way up to probably 2009, 10. You know, we want to show the New Make, we want to show the quality of the New Make itself, because it really kind of tells the story, shows people how, you know, those flavors develop over the years.
Yeah. Like that's what makes Kilchoman essentially. Like obviously all our casks make our different expressions, releases, whatever it may be, but like that is like our DNA. And casks do have a massive influence, but for us, we never felt they were like the be all and end all and how good our whiskey could be. Focusing a lot on this allows us to really make a good quality, like young whiskey as well, but like lots of depth, lots of layers, lots of character. And a lot of that is actually down to this stuff here over maybe the casks later down the line.
Yeah. So both the New Makes, I believe both the New Makes, are 63.5%. So the number one and number two, as I said, the two New Makes, they're both 63.5. This is, so to explain New Make is the whiskey before it goes into the barrels. So it's been distilled twice, and we've, you know, tailored the fermentation and the yeast, the cut points, the stills, everything goes into, you know, contributing the DNA, the sort of, I say the foundations of kind of what you then find as a matured Kilchoman single malt. So 63.5 it's come off the stills, and then we've added a bit of water to reduce it down before it goes into the casks. I think it's right in saying most distilleries fill at 63.5. I know that a portion maybe of other distilleries, you know, a portion of their spirit will be at a higher ABV, maybe for longer maturation. Everything we filled at Kilchoman has been at 63.5. That's slightly lowered by adding a little bit of water to lower the strength slightly. It actually gives it a bit of a boost in those early years as well. So we've always bottled at 63.5. This specific New Make is made from barley grown in 2002. It was Sassy barley. So Sassy was the variety of barley we grew in 2002. And malted in 2023, and then distilled in that same year. So it sort of takes a year from harvesting to distilling, typically. So clean.
Yeah,
it's nothing like New Make at 11 o'clock in the morning.
It's actually the first alcoholic drink of the day, and good one to really started like here instead of working my way up.
There's very little smoke on the nose. You know, there is a difference in the peating level between the barley that we grow, the 100% Islay barley, and the barley that we buy in. So the barley that we grow is 20 ppm, lightly peated. So, you know, on the nose, almost no smoke at all. It's got a lovely kind of hay, honeyed sweetness.
That's because it's unpeated.
Oh yeah, of course. This is not 20 ppm. This is unpeated. That's a good thing you're here. I would have think kept on talking about. Over to you.
So yeah, obviously, like, well, I do agree with.
I wondered
what
why
you
were
were
smirking.
I was like, I feel like I was just gonna let you keep on going.
I'm all flustered now.
But yeah, you do. You're right. Like you can really taste the barley. You really get that like influence from it as like straw. Like I always think it's like cereal or biscuits, and then it's very fresh. It's clean. Like you said about a lot of distilleries wouldn't really give you their New Make, and again, even on Islay, like Islay New Make Spirit tends to be really like heavy, oily, iodine. And that doesn't necessarily mean that ours is better than anything like that. It's just that trying to create different styles, and on Islay they really need those, or generalizing, like umbrella. A lot of Islay distilleries want heavy, oily, iodine New Make Spirit because they're maturing for 12, 15, 25 years. So they'll need to keep all that heaviness in it with the intention of a 25-year-old still needs to taste just as peaty as that distillery is known for. So whereas for us, it might not matter quite as much as the whiskey is going to be relatively young, and we don't look for big peaty flavours with it. But obviously this still being unpeated is just a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, so I doubt many people have actually tasted Kilchoman unpeated.
Yeah, so we've not released many at all, if any. Like there's a couple of single casks here and there, but I'd say 90% of Kilchoman fans probably haven't tried it.
Certainly not as a New Make.
As a New Make, no.
We have a question. So which final release would this particular unpeated New Make become? I mean, we don't necessarily, when we distill it, plan for it to become a certain product. You know, we kind of fill certain casks and make sure we have a kind of variety of new makes, and then a variety of casks. But the bulk of what we do, both in terms of whiskey that you find on the shelves and obviously what we're distilling here, is kind of, standard Kilchoman, if you like. So 20 ppm barley grown here, and 50 ppm barley that we buy in accounts for 98% of the spirit that we're distilling. So in terms of unpeated new make, it's a tiny proportion. And so we'll just fill these. They're probably going into bourbon barrels, I should think, and then we'll kind of just see how that develops. We don't plan too far ahead.
Yeah.
You kind of are led by the whiskey.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to know as well, because like you can't tell a cask what to do. So you could go and try something like a sherry cask, and after 5 years it could be lovely, or you could taste it after 5 years and go, it's not ready yet. So you can't really plan and go, okay, these sherry casks for Sannig, because Sannig on average about 5 years old. You can taste them after 5 years and go, well, they're not done yet, so I'm not going to put that into Sannig because it's not going to taste like Sannig. It's not going to taste right. So yeah, you can't really plan those sorts of things, especially with unpeated. We don't have a consistent unpeated release. We never have, so wouldn't know what this would make. It
sort of falls into the experimental
miscellaneous category.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of, we allocate a bit of time every year for doing things that we haven't done before, and this is kind of, or certainly things that we don't do as a standard. And this is kind of, the unpeated is one of those things.
Even like to smell so if you go on to kind of see them side by side, the unpeated and the peated one, like even on the peated version, the 50 ppm new make spirit, like you still don't get peat. Like I still don't sell peat. It sounds a lot sweeter. You get a bit more like it's like a butterscotch or like
sort of
creamier, than the unpeated one, which using our own barley, I always think you get a lot more of the barley influence, which I just think is quite nice because it reminds you the fact that it is our own barley we used to make it. But
the smoke comes through on the palate though. Much more smoke on the palate, and it has that real kind of distinct smokiness as well. Ultimately these are new makes, so there's a bit of a, I don't want to say rough edge to them, but they're not kind of.
But like you'd always you plan for that. So we're not looking to release and bottle these as like sold around the world sort of thing. So you're planning to make the new make a certain type of way with the intention of after maturation it will taste like this. And the casks obviously remove a lot of those like bitter, harsh, like gritty flavors.
Yeah, I mean the key things with Kilchoman in terms of the new make are the fermentation. So. Well, I'll go back a step further and say, whilst we are now 20 years old, we're still, finding our feet in terms of exactly what we want to do, because every time you fill a cask and refill a cask, you like learn something else. So in terms of like the casks and things, you'll see a lot of changing there. But in terms of the way that we distill, the way we ferment, it's always been the same. And the reason for setting things up in that way was because as a new distillery, we didn't have enough money to wait 10, 15 years for the whiskey to really be of a good quality. So our new make is genuinely different. And I would say, genuinely better than typical new make. And I don't say better as in it's making better whiskey. I mean, it's better as in it's designed to be cleaner. It's designed to be, have a bit more citrus and sweetness and not so much of that rougher edges. The kind of negative side of that is that probably we have a whiskey that develops and peaks at an age somewhere between like 8 and 14 years old. Whereas most distilleries who maybe have slightly heavier notes in their new make have a whiskey that peaks at somewhere sort of, at us 5-10 years older. We have a question.
Oh, lovely. So in order to support 30 to 50-year-old Kilchoman, are you going to fill some casks with an ABV higher than 63.5? I think, obviously, right now, we've not really kind of planned for anything that old yet. We're still happy with how things are going at the moment. We're maybe going to start doing a few older ones. We obviously released a 16-year-old last year, and that's the oldest widely available release of Kilchoman ever. But most distilleries obviously release a 16-year-old for fun. That could be the standard. So if we ever were to do 30 to 50-year-old casks, we would obviously have to start with a higher filling strength, but we've not done any of that yet.
Slightly depressing thought, but I probably won't potentially won't be around to taste 50-year-old. I mean, but actually, as a filling strength, you know, it's something that's been on our kind of to-do list for a while. You know, filling out that higher ABV so that you can take it out, because you know, at 12 years, we're down at, you know, one of the bourbon barrels at 12 years old is down at 52.5. So the rate at which the ABV drops though does slow
down.
So it will slow down significantly. So 30-year-old probably it isn't a problem. I don't know for sure because we haven't done it. We don't know how it behaves in our warehouses, but I would imagine we'd be okay at 30 years old in terms of maintaining a decent ABV. But beyond that, we probably do need to start filling at a higher ABV. I think, hopefully, my father has thought of that. I don't know. We did actually in the early days. I remember we had when we had one Stillman, and it must have been 2007, 2008. He decided that he obviously had to go on holiday, but we didn't have any stand-in Stillman at that time. So I was given a formula for reducing the strength, the New Make down from like 68, 70% down to 63.5 to fill into the casks. But I've never been very good at maths. There's a reason why I work for my parents and not someone else. And I filled a whole load of casks at like 60, I think it was about 67, 68%. I didn't put nearly enough water in. So there are some casks in the warehouse that are at a higher strength. So it's very useful. I was forethought.
I know James was obviously planning for these things before anyone else.
I thought of it.
I bet that's the reason. Is that what you told Anthony?
Of course. He wasn't very happy at the time. So we tasted the two new makes.
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts. Keep the questions coming. I see something there with question marks. Do you double distill all Kilchoman spirits? Yes, we do. I'm seeing Rachel behind the screen there I'm going rogue. I'm reading them off the screen. But yeah, we do. We double distill everything. I mean, that's the norm in Scotch whisky is double distilled. I know there are distilleries that do 2.5 and 3 distillations, but we, as a kind of Islay distillery, most of the known as a peated Islay whiskey, we want to retain some of that smoke, and so we've always double distilled. It's probably again one that we might look at in the future, but it's probably not at the top of our list of things to try. But it's certainly something we would like to try. It's just with all these things, getting round to it, and then.
When you talk about filling again, do you only fill 2 times at most per barrel? Aye. So we do one fresh fill when they come straight from ever we've sourced them from. So sherry cask, they come from Jose Miguel Martin in Jerez in Spain. And then the bourbon barrels that you'll try here, both of these 12-year-old, oh lovely, both of these 12-year-old bourbon barrels would have came from Buffalo Trace Distillery, which is in Kentucky in America. And they fill them once, and that's a fresh fill. And then when we talk about refill, that is only one time after that. So we don't do a 3rd, 4th, 5th fill, just for the kind of the same reason we mentioned earlier on. Like, we're not maturing them for long enough to warrant 3, 4, 5 fills. They lose a bit of that. Not they're bad. Like, distilleries will use them after that. It's not that something wrong with them, and you shouldn't. It's just the fact that we don't feel like they've got like they've retained enough big flavors for us to use them past that. But
again, they might be suitable for longer maturation
as we get older.
But the development of a new distillery takes a long time because we didn't start with a warehouse full of barrels. So we kind of we will start using 3rd fill, maybe 4th fill casks, but they will certainly be earmarked for much longer maturation.
Yeah. I think the thing with Kilchoman is obviously like I wouldn't necessarily call us a new distillery anymore. We're 20 years old, or almost. But like, we are still in the whiskey industry. That's still so young. So like, we've not tried half the things that we'd want to try. Like 20 years is a long time in life, but in whiskey that's nothing. Yeah. So still seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, trying different things, and as we get older, we'll grow and we'll do all this sort of stuff, which is quite fun actually, because opens the doors to things we haven't already done and see what would work.
Yeah. So those 2 new makes give you a really good idea for kind of the foundations of Kilchoman in terms of that citrus. The citrus is really the thing that kind of shines through regardless, trying the unpeated and actually, the Fèis release as well, which is unpeated, that kind of real citrus, almost slight acidity is really something that shines through with all Kilchomans. And with the new makes, that it really shows that, the influence of the smoke coming in there kind of gives it, for me, it kind of has a lot more structure in a way.
Yeah.
Like, the smoke really gives the citrus something to kind of counterbalance.
Yeah.
So that should give you a good idea for the influence of the peat. And here we have some peat.
There's two, I'll hold it the other bit because these are actually two different bits of peat. Cut from the same peat bank, try not to get it in whiskey, cut from the same peat bank, but this one is a lot more dense, a lot darker, and this is a lot lighter and more lighter literally in weight. Yeah. So this is top peat. So from the top layer of the peat bank, this is cut much deeper down. So this bit here would be thousands of years old in comparison to that bit there. And we will use a combination of both. Yeah. So this stuff here burns a lot better to give you smoke, which is what we're looking for in the kiln. So ideally you'd want more of this, but there's obviously only one layer of top peat or one or two kind of sections that you'll be able to cut, and then everything else will be that stuff there. That burns a lot more like coal, which is going to burn a lot hotter. So we try and use a mix of the two because we are looking more for smoke from that rather than heat or fire or flames from this, because we're not trying to burn or cook the barley, just trying to give it a smoky flavour.
And this has all the sort of salty phenolic flavour is all in here from the top, and then as you go further down, that's been sort of leached out.
You can even see in that bit there, if you flip it up, that's actually that way, because you can see as it goes down, it's getting much denser even there compared to that. So you can see, like, you can really see in it.
There you go, that's a bit better.
Compared to that bit there.
Yeah.
So completely different.
And this is cut from just outside your house, isn't it?
Aye, so it's cut from a peat bank called Knockdhu, which basically means like black land, so peat, and cut just down next to Loch Gorm. So Loch Gorm is just behind us here. If you had laser vision, you could see through the building. Just down there, and we cut it just down there by a man who works for us in production. His name's Derek. So Derek actually runs the bottling hall.
He is very proud of his peat bank as well.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. It's the smartest peat bank on the island, I would say.
It's very well kept.
Yeah. Which is a strange thing to say about a peat bank. But,
aye, yeah. You would expect it to be clean, but amazingly it is.
So a couple of other questions. So what are your favourite cast types? You take this one.
Like
two maximum. You can't just
start rhyming them all off.
Yeah.
Madeira and port.
Okay, fruity.
I like a wee fortified wine, so I do.
And you have to say fruity. Actually, it sounds fantastic in the Scottish accent.
Fruity.
Yeah, there you go. And then mine would be my favourite is bourbon barrels. Bourbon barrels. I know it's boring, but I was drinking some bourbon barrel matured. Actually, it was 9-year-old 100% Islay single bourbon barrel last night, and it's just lovely and fruity and clean and vibrant. Yeah, and I really like bourbon barrels.
I think in Kilchoman, bourbon barrels really let the spirit shine. It's probably what displays our spirit in one of the best lights, I would say. But
and then will there be another vintage release? So we did, sort of 2009 was probably the last. I think
it was the last one.
So 9 vintage, which would have been, I think, released in 2018 or something.
2019,
like 19, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Putting me to shame. So we might do that. To be honest, we probably transitioned from vintage releases in terms of naming the distillation year into more age statement stuff. So you're probably more likely to see kind of age statement stuff like 13, 15, 16 kind of age statement releases rather than the vintage stuff. But yeah, certainly there will be kind of a version of the vintage releases coming. And which style of peat, which type of peat does Kilchoman use more of?
As in in comparison to the
I think that's
lighter stuff and the dark stuff. Well, most distilleries, this is in general, would want the lighter style of peat. And that is because, like we said, that's what's going to give you smoke. It's got more of the phenolic, the salty flavour in it in comparison to the peat cut deeper down in the ground. But obviously the way that a peat bank, how you cut vertically into the ground, it goes deeper down. So you do have a lot more of the the darker stuff in comparison to the lighter stuff. But we will have to therefore use a combination of both just to keep that.
I think we have a kind of, we're in a slightly different position to other distilleries because we cut our peat by hand.
Yeah.
So while we, personally.
Me and James are down there. These hands are made.
Not made for cutting peat. Yeah. We cut it by hand, so we kind of, you can clearly identify the top and the bottom peat, but most distilleries are using peat that's cut, machine cut. So it's sort of cut, taken out by like an excavator or a similar kind of machine, and it's sort of, it basically combines it all together, and you get a peat at the end, but it doesn't distinguish between top and bottom peat. So it's more illustrative, to be honest, because even though we say this is top peat, this is bottom peat, we balance the two. But smoking barley is not an exact science, so I think there's a natural variance, even when you buy it from a commercial malting facility like the Portella Maltings or others in Scotland, that it's not exactly the same. There's a kind of variance batch to batch of maybe 10 ppm, well, maybe not as much as 10, but kind of there's a certain 10-20% variance batch to batch.
Whiskey.
So we, in number 1 and number 3, we have essentially, day 1 of its whiskey life in the new make, and then we have 12 years of maturation in bourbon barrels. So the 12-year-old bourbon unpeated is, essentially exactly the same product, but just 12 years on in a bourbon barrel. And you'll see it's just developed all sorts of lovely, fruity flavor.
And this is one of the casks that has been used for this year's Fèis Islay release.
So this is, the Fèis release this year was 2 bourbon barrels from 2011, and this is 303, and the other one's 305. So this is made, I say it's exactly the same as number 1. There is only one real difference in terms of the new make, and that is the barley variety. So the first new make, the unpeated new make, was made from Sassy, and then the 12-year-old was distilled from publican barley. And every year we grow different barley varieties.
So it's not obviously it's nice to experiment and see what effects that has on more so the new make spirit than anything else, because by the time you're maturing it in that cask for X amount of years, there's no way of saying that, this tastes different because it was a different barley variety 12 years ago when we done it. Really the reason for growing different barley varieties on Islay is for the yield. We're trying to get as much as possible, and some varieties will for one grow better than others on Islay, so we're always trying to find a good variety that works. And then also they'll come to the end of their commercial life. So one that we used for a very long time was concerto barley. We used that for ages and it worked really well, but it's getting a lot harder to source now and you can't really get it anymore. So over the last couple of years we've been trying to find a replacement, and really that was Sassy. The sort of the development of the barley varieties is more, it's kind of like around making it more resistant to the weather and to the to bugs and everything else, and higher yields. But they do, like one that was very heavy was Laureate. We're actually growing it again. Concerto is lovely, light and citrusy. Laureate is one that's much heavier. So this year we are growing Laureate again. So we'll see how that I think you will definitely, because you can taste the new mixed spirit side by side, 2 different barley varieties, and you will notice a difference. But in the whiskey, there's obviously so many things, elements of flavour going on there, it's hard to kind of pinpoint that that's coming from X variety of barley.
But this is lovely. I mean, this is different. Again, it's strange doing a lineup where 2 of the 4 whiskies are unpeated, because it's just not necessarily typical of Kilchoman. Pretty much everything we make here is smoky. So this is a bit of a treat. I mean, it's so light and so sort of, as I said, it does have a creamy kind of citrus, lots of toffee and caramel sweetness. I really like it. I do really like it. I've tasted some of the unpeated new make. I think I've tried 1 or 2 single casks that were unpeated that we've done. But I tasted this for the first time on Monday when I came back to the distillery, and I was like, I think the thing with Kilchoman is the fact that
you don't, for a lot of our whiskies, you don't get very much peat on the nose, or even like on the palate as much. It's all kind of like the finish. It almost like comes. The peat is like a surprise almost in some Kilchoman. Like you go the whole dram and it's you swallow it and then it kind of comes back. You get the peaty finish. It's like the aftertaste is warming, and so I think in this you still get all that original like lovely like fruitiness, the light, the floral, citrus flavors, and then the peat you don't get that peaty finish, but you still get that like warm. As well at cask strength, it's 53%, 53 exactly, so the same as the what the Fèis also came out with altogether.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's definitely a Kilchoman. So you know it, and it's definitely Kilchoman. It has that really kind of like salty citrus kind of side to it. But then I say saltiness, but then I always felt I attributed the saltiness of the whiskey to the peat. So maybe I've been talking shite for the last 10 years. But certainly on the nose, it's got that kind of like, maybe it's just sort of slight acidity almost.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's lovely.
It's really nice. I think because Kilchoman we do so much with the New Make Spirit, as in like you were saying, the fermentation, how we distill, all the reflux that goes on in the stills and things like that. Like our spirit has so much depth to it, as you obviously just tasted, just layered, that like I've always said it would work really well in unpeated casks. Like I always think it would. It holds up. Yeah. It holds up to that because of the New Make. So yeah, I'm glad that we've kind of got to do it. It'll be nice to see by the end of today what people are thinking about it, what everyone's saying, because I think everyone was a bit like excited to taste it because they just didn't know what to expect. So hopefully it's been well received. I'm sure it will be.
So there's another question here there's two questions. Keep them coming. We'll try and keep the answers relatively concise, but I'm not very good at that. So regarding I'll take the top one, you take the second one. So regarding the changing malt supply situation with Port Ellen maltings, I heard that you were going to use malted barley from the mainland. How do you feel this would change your typical flavor profile? So yeah, the Diageo have a maltings on Islay. So essentially the situation for the distilleries on the island are that you either malt the barley yourselves or you buy it from the Port Ellen maltings on Islay. And if you don't do either of those, then you have to supply from the mainland. For the last 18 years, we've had a good relationship and bought from the Diageo maltings at Port Ellen. They're now prioritizing, the distilleries that they own on the island. They've recently opened Port Ellen Distillery and up production at other distilleries. So understandably, they've kind of said, well, there's not enough for the rest of you, I'm afraid. So we are now sourcing our barley, our malted barley at 50 ppm. So the barley that's used for Maccabee and Saneg and Loch Gorm, others, that is now or will come, because it takes 5-10 years to kind of reach the actual whiskey. But that's coming from the mainland. There's no real difference, to be honest, other than the fact that it's being malted on the mainland, because we are supplying Islay peat to the malting facility. So it's still malted it's still smoked using Islay peat. It's just the peat is cut and then has to be transported to the mainland. It still doesn't feel quite right. So there should be, in answer, there should be no difference.
Yeah.
Because
the barley from Port Ellen maltings was never from Islay anyway. So like it's the exact same, commercially malted, the maltings works the same, it's the exact same thing, but it feels different.
We would prefer, and actually we have put in planning to put in our own kind of commercial malting facility so that we can buy from farmers on the mainland and then malt here in a more commercial way. We malt here our own barley, but in some traditional floor malting, and that's quite labor intensive, and we wouldn't be able to do that in the same way. So we have applied to put in drum maltings or Saladin boxes, depends on what we decide, but we'll see. We'll hopefully get planning for that, and then we'll make a decision. But essentially, there shouldn't be a change in the flavor profile. Yeah. See, that was a very concise. I'm terrible at concise answers here. And then there was another question.
It was about the water. Do you use pure mineral water to dilute your whiskey, or use tap water? So our water source is an independent water source. It's a dam at the top side of the distillery. And that's what we've used since day one. So the dam runs past the distillery, and now we'll use it in production, and then it goes down to Loch Gorm. Yeah. So it's spring water.
It's spring water that comes out of the springs just up the up the glen, and then it comes through the peat, and so it's quite dark in colour,
Yeah.
and then that's used in production. In terms of the water to dilute the whiskey, it comes from a separate spring, so it has to be spring water. The dam water that we use for production doesn't actually count as spring water because it doesn't come straight out of the spring. So we use spring water that's just comes from a spring in the side of the hill about 200 yards from where we're sitting.
Yeah. So it's on the side.
And that's used to dilute the whiskey down to bottling. So no tap water, although our tap water is also comes from the same sources. But
I was going to say define tap water.
Yeah. Good. So one more whiskey.
I think so.
Yeah.
So this, I would say this one here is the closest to that like classic Kilchoman flavor. That definitive style of what, like you could give me that, you could give like a Kilchoman drinker that blind and they would go, yeah, that's Kilchoman. Very kind of typical to the sort of style that we make. So again, another 12-year-old bourbon barrel. The only difference is that obviously this one here is peated, so made with essentially your second new make will make the second whiskey. And the difference being that the second new make was distilled from barley so the same barley it was distilled from.
Well, we don't know what the barley variety
2020.
is because it would be
So last year, when we distilled it, and then this one here 12 years ago, which was, do we have the barley variety for that one?
No. Well, we don't. I don't know if they actually.
Oh, it's Portela maltings.
Portela,
Yeah, we won't.
Yeah.
Okay,
I wondered where you were going with them.
I know. I was thinking. I was like, why don't I know? But that's fine. Wouldn't have a clue.
So we can ask actually. I'm sure we do have a record of what the barley variety is, but they probably can't tell us exactly because commercial maltings will be buying from
various
all sorts of different farmers who will be growing multiple different varieties, and they'll all be kind of malted together. So they wouldn't malt individual varieties. So what we do here is we grow individual varieties in specific fields. We'll harvest the individual varieties, dry them individually, distill them individually, mature them individually. So, with Kilchoman, you actually have a single variety, single farm, single malt. So
and that's obviously what makes it very unique.
Yeah.
I think to smell that, like this is what I was saying, you don't even still on the nose get peat. I don't.
Not a lot anyway, that's for sure.
You can get a bit of that, but then obviously I was going to say you get a bit of that saltiness, but as we've kind of just learned, but that also has that saltiness in there as well.
Because if you compare it back to the new make, there's not a lot that ties the two on the nose. Do you know what I mean?
No,
it's strange how it develops in cars.
That smells a lot more oily.
Yeah. It is sort of the peat development during maturation. In the new make, it's not at its peatiest stage. In the new make, you get the smoke, but actually after some 2-3 years, the peat is at its most kind of pungent in the glass, and then it kind of falls away from there.
I don't think you get the peat either at higher alcohol strength. So at 60.5, I don't think you get very much peat. But as it gets down lower, obviously that takes time. You will get a lot more. That's why when people say they add water to a cask strength whiskey, it becomes peatier, and that's just because obviously slightly lower.
But this is. I thought I was scared that I might like the unpeated more than the peated, but I like that kind of smoky hit. It makes, to me, it kind of gives the whiskey, as I say, a little bit more structure, a little bit more kind of hit. I like to sort of taste the development on the palate and also kind of identify. So I can say, there's smoke that came from that.
Yeah.
It has that creamy kind of citrus flavor that's from the new make, and all of that kind of cooked fruits, tropical fruits. It's kind of that
vanilla,
cask influence, the vanilla, exactly. And this would have been a Buffalo Trace bourbon barrel, I'm guessing. 2011.
I like them both, but for different reasons. I do like them both. I do think I like the unpeated one for the fact that I think it's just unusual, it's different, and it's a lot more flavour than what I initially would have thought, because obviously we mainly make peated whiskey. But that's lovely. That's just kind of exactly.
I just think with the peated whiskey, you have that. You take that initial sip, and you've got the smoke there, and it's quite powerful. And then you go back for the second time, and you get something slightly different. You go back again, and you kind of it takes you on a bit more of a journey than I'm biased. But yeah, if you're joining us, and you probably enjoy smoky whiskies anyway.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but you know, let us know what you prefer. Tell us if you think we should make more
Unpeated.
unpeated, and we'll pass it on to my father.
To the boss.
We'll see what he has to say about it. So yeah, any final questions? Rachel, have we got any more questions coming in? Well, what's that? Oh, you have? No. If you comment in if you comment on the YouTube channel, it'll disappear when the live ends. But if you have any more questions, then you can email info@kilchoman.com. If you're watching on Facebook, then you can continue to comment and ask questions. If you're watching this, not live, comment and we'll answer the questions, tomorrow. Well, not today. We're a bit busy today, but tomorrow or in the following days, we'll get around to answering any questions you might have.
I can see one there quickly. Do you use any colouring in any of your whiskies? Absolutely not.
Oh yeah, that's
short
nice
and sweet.
Insight. Yeah. everything minimum
thought that'd
46.
be quite quick to
Yeah.
answer that. So
No, you can see that. So the colour in here is just the influence of the bourbon barrel.
you get some that are really, really
Yeah.
dark or like nice and red from the red wine or the port cast or things like that. And then, the bourbon gives it a lovely golden colour.
Good.
So yeah.
That is that. We can get back to our cocktails.
I know. I feel like this has been a nice wee break from the chaos out there. But
If you haven't come to Fèis, then make sure you'll get a really good idea for the day by following us on social media throughout the day. But it's a good event.
it's good fun.
We've got some big crowds.
Starting to
building
busy up a wee bit now, but it'll get into the afternoon.
And if you're thinking about booking for next year, then typically you need to probably think about accommodation fairly soon, because the island fills up quite quick. But we'd encourage everyone to kind of come. It can be quite busy, but there's lots of things during Fèis that you can do that you can't do the rest of the year. And then what would they do next? Book accommodation, book your events, turn up, have a good time. Yeah.
Enjoy the whiskies. Come to Kilchoman, please.
Yeah, we're on the Thursday every year. So anyway, I'll say thank you very much.
I'll say thank you very much as well. Thank you for coming, taking your time.
Yeah, we'll see you around and about. This is weird. It's like I want to shake there.
I know. See you around the world, and if not, on Islay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.